So, Timothy, I'm doing a lot of research on the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and the Emerald Tablet Singular of Hermes.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get down to the bottom of if these tablets actually existed, whose hands they passed through, and can we find any account of them? So what is the earliest recorded mention of the Emerald Tablets of Hermes that you know about, and does it compare to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth in any way?
Well, there's two accounts I've been made aware of related to the Emerald Tablet itself. The first was supposedly Alexander the Great discovered it in Egypt, actually at the area of the Osirian, which you're very familiar with.
Yeah.
You spent time there. Supposedly he discovered one of these tablets there or in that region. And Aristotle helped him to translate it, and it was whatever information he got from it was valuable to him for his whole campaign that he did thereafter.
Yeah.
As you know, there's some speculation that he may even be buried near Saqqara, and there's statues of him in the region that they found. So that's the first source that I found. The other source, and that was supposedly he found the tomb of Thoth or Hermes in that region, and that's where he discovered this tablet. The other reference that I found to it showing up in history had to do with Apollonius of Tyana, was also said to have had this tablet. Now, according to esoteric tradition, Apollonius of Tyana, Apollonius just means little Apollo.
Right.
And according to some esoteric accounts, Apollonius was actually the Apostle Paul, associated with Christianity, and Apollonius just got shortened to Paul,
Right.
and so that he also had this tablet for a while. Apollonius, from a historical standpoint, was just as a side note, he was said to be crucified as well. He said he was the Son of God. They crucified him, and the Roman soldiers said, "Well, if you're the Son of God, then get off that cross." So he did. Went off to live the rest of his life. So he was a very fascinating figure. In ancient times, it's hard to know how much is myth and how much is truth. But
Right.
that's one of the other early references to that particular tablet. Later on, you find versions of it though all over the world. I mean, they found them in China. They're probably brought to China by the Manichaeans out of Egypt, a Gnostic sect who valued the writings of Hermes. And we know that the Manichaeans traveled from Egypt, all the way into China. In fact, the Ming dynasty of China may even be named after the Manichaeans, because there were so many Manichaeans in the Chinese court at the time, and Ming just means light, and they referred to themselves as the sons of light is what they referred to themselves as. So it's possible, that's highly probable, that's where they got the Emerald Tablet, at least translations of it.
Yeah.
But we find it even going up into the modern world. Isaac Newton did a translation of it. It was very important to him and his alchemical work he was doing. So, it has a long history as far as that goes.
Yeah, extended history. I mean, so many hands have touched this material and come up with inspired translations. Everyone from the Queen of Sheba, Sir Isaac Newton, St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yep.
I mean, Crowley, or
That's
Crowley,
right.
right?
That's
Depending on
right.
how you want to pronounce it. So many people have had this information come through their hands. Some researchers claim that the Emerald Tablets of Hermes originated from Arabic traditions. So what have you heard about that? And is there any more knowledge that can connect the Arabic people to the tablets?
Sure. There was a number of alchemists that were of Islamic in Arabic sources, particularly Jebel, who is actually where we get the word gibberish from, because people didn't understand, his what he was talking about alchemically. But a number of these Arabic sources were. We have to remember that after the Roman Empire fell, a number of Greek and Roman texts and Egyptian, which really came from Egyptian sources, had fallen and had been, no one knew about them. And it wasn't until a number of Arabic translators started retranslating them and making them available that then they began to see the light of day again. A number of these were mystical Islamic sources, but there were also Druze and Sabaean sources that were also translating these things. In particular, I want to emphasize the Druze. And this is really where the Templars got this information and brought it back to Europe, because they had close association with the Druze. Who also were known as the Tawhid Muhadun at the time, but they were, they were Hermeticists, and they actually venerated Hermes as one of their prophets. So it was natural for them to translate these texts and to then make them available to the Templars, who they had close association with, who then brought it up into Europe from there.
Yeah. These tablets really took a journey around the planet. I mean, everywhere you look, it seems as if no matter what continent, somebody had gotten access to this information.
Yeah.
It kind of hints as a global civilization, the ability for people to travel to and fro, obviously not by mainstream standards, but in some way they were able to travel.
Absolutely. And this kind of goes back to this idea of Atlantis. In fact, in the Mayan tradition, which they referred to it as Aztlan, they said that Aztlan originally had as many as 2,160 of these green tablets. Now, sometimes they were referred to as emerald, other times they were referred to as jade. We don't really know exactly. They just said it was a green stone tablet, and that they inherited some of them and brought them into Yucatan after the collapse of Aztlan. And of course, Aztlan and Atlantis are pretty much the same, thing. So,
right. And they found some remnants of the Aztlan wall somewhere kind of meandering through Texas, kind of into the Mexican area.
Yeah, they did. And they, according to the Mayan tradition, as well as the Chiapas Indians in the area, they said that basically, it was there was this central hub that had influence all over the world, and that it was destroyed in cataclysm, and they had to escape in boats, and they they ended up settling in the Yucatan, and then from there they kind of spread out. But they brought some, as many of these tablets with them as they could, according to their traditions.
So the tablets seem to have passed through so many hands. Can we trace back the original author to Thoth, the Atlantean priest king, or Thoth out of ancient Kemet or Egypt?
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the case. Yeah. Certainly later he's referred to as Hermes, but, Hermes is just the Greek name for Thoth. Right. And, at least according to the Mayan and the Chiapas Indians from the region and the Nahuatl cultures in the region, they say that these tablets were originally written by a person by the name of Wotan. And Wotan was this wise person who taught peace and stability and how to build civilization after things had collapsed. And later, of course, when the Spanish went to conquer these tribes, there was a church bishop by the name of Nunez de la Vega, in 1691. He rounded up all of the tablets that he could find and all the writings of Wotan and made them disappear. Now, we don't know if he destroyed them or if he turned them over to the Roman Church, but that was kind of the last that they were seen. It should be pointed out, though, that Wotan, if in most languages, V and W are interchangeable. Correct. So Wotan would be Wotan, which in the Norse tradition is Thoth. Yeah. So correct. I mean, Wotan would be Thoth, and these tablets, these green tablets, likely and probably were emerald tablets that we're familiar with. So.
Right, absolutely. The connections are all there. And so it's really leading to the point that these tablets seem to be a real physical construct. In other words, they were something that people can actually touch in their hands in the third dimension, not just some mysterious thing that somebody thought up in their mind. Yeah,
that's right. Well, and I'll tell you, from a Templar perspective, we had attained one of these tablets. It does, in fact, look like emerald or jade, but what we actually found that it was a copper acetate. So when copper is crystallized as an acetate, it looks just like this. I mean, it looks like emerald or jade, and so this is probably what they were made out of. And the reason for that is, you can actually take that copper acetate, and if you do an alchemical process to it, you can extract from it copper monoatomic atoms, which are supposed to be really good for your health, and in particular for your skin and that type of thing to I don't know, help prevent aging, actually.
Health and wellness and everything.
Right, exactly.
I have a copper knee brace, and it has copper in it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I have some copper support socks, so same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it seems like these emerald tablets, like we said before, had passed through a lot of hands, and you've already authenticated from your personal research that Thoth the Atlantean is the author of these tablets, and that their physical structure. So I'm trying to glean, where could these tablets possibly be? And, we have the singular tablet, we have the emerald tablets. From your knowledge and your knowledge base, where do you think these tablets are located?
Well, I mean, there's certainly that Mayan account that in 1691, where this bishop confiscated them. I mean, I would assume they would be turned over to the Vatican at that point. So there's a good probability they're in the Vatican archives. That said, there are other people who have written on the validity of these things. In fact, if you pick up, there's a great researcher, George Hunt Williamson, who was he was a UFO researcher, but he did a bunch of other stuff. He used to work for the University of Arizona, doing archaeological work, and he wrote in his book Secret Places of the Lion. He talks about some of the history of these emerald tablets and how they were passed between both Egyptian and Mayan hands. In fact, he even sources the pharaohs that had these tablets. Now, where he was getting that information from, I don't know. But supposedly there were people like the character Doriel, who first did one of these publications of it. This is where he was getting his information from, was from George Hunt Williamson. And it should be pointed out, too, George Hunt Williamson is also who Indiana Jones was based off of.
That's true.
So it's, he was a professor, and he also did some work at the University of Colorado, as I understand it. And by some accounts, he had gotten a hold of one of these tablets or some of these tablets. Now, there was also an organization that was formed in Larkspur, Colorado, referred to themselves as the Great White Fraternity, and they were preserving some of George Hunt Williamson's works, and by some accounts, they had acquired some of these tablets, but they've since disappeared. So, it's hard to know where they were after that.
Gotcha. I know that there's supposed to be an emerald tablet or some reference to it in Cambridge in the UK.
Yeah.
And which is a tablet that is a singular tablet.
Right.
And so what do you think the difference is between the two writings?
Well, they're both attributed to Thoth. The singular tablet, is just, this is a replica of it right here. I mean, it's an alchemical recipe, basically. And of course, alchemy, I'm under the belief that alchemy was the science of Atlantis. You find the same alchemical ideas all over the ancient world, and even using the same ingredients and everything else, which seems to suggest it was part of that worldwide tradition that came out of Atlantis. And I mean, you just can't explain it any other way. If you're finding the same recipes in India as you're finding, in the Yucatan, I mean, it is part of that worldwide thing, and of course, Egypt. So I believe that the Emerald Tablet was one tablet of those 2,000 tablets that Atlantis was said to have had. But then the other tablets, what you're referred to as the Emerald Tablets of Thoth that you have written about, those are some of the other versions, of those tablets. I think that came out of the same thing, and that are attributed to Thoth, later known as Hermes or Mercury or other names depending on the cultures.
Yeah, various names known around the world.
Yeah, exactly.
I even went out to Australia and did a walkabout with some Aboriginal elders and researchers. And they showed me this huge petroglyph in the ground at Carryong 9 in the outback.
Yep.
And it's Thoth from Egypt.
Yep.
And they call him Thoth the Mabi. And they say he's riding in his skyship through the Milky Way galaxy.
Wow.
That's wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've seen pictographs in the Utah region near an area known as Horseshoe Canyon, where there's depictions of Thoth as well, more in the lines of traditionally the Greek Hermes. I mean, with the feathered cap, you know what I mean? Which is really just if you look at it, it looks like a disc, a flying disc.
Yeah.
is what it is. That's on his head.
Yeah.
They just have the wings to show that it's flying. But I've seen pictographs of that in Utah. So it is worldwide, and of course, according to the Sumerian tradition, Thoth was really Enki, who was the person who decided to help save mankind, and to save humanity from the cataclysm that was going to come, and then he provided wisdom to people after the cataclysm, So you do find it worldwide, and so therefore we shouldn't be too surprised if we find the same teachings associated with these tablets worldwide.
Exactly. It's like circumstantial evidence, right?
Yeah.
So in America, if you have enough circumstantial evidence, you can actually convict somebody of a crime.
Of course, yeah.
So if we're investigating the crime of the existence of the Emerald Tablets, we start seeing all this circumstantial evidence leading to one character being Thoth, and also leading to the fact that these teachings obviously have been replicated and duplicated all over the world.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. 100%. And they alluded to not only some of the history, but some of the sciences that needed to be looked into in order to build humanity up to to be like Thoth himself.
Right. Yeah, it seems as if the writings are really a version of the teaching of spiritual enlightenment.
Yeah.
And to help mankind realize the true power that lies inside of him, and for him to become the light and seek the light, to become the son of the light.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You know, in Egypt, there's even a speculation that Imhotep, who built was credited with building the step pyramid of Zoser, and having all of this alchemical knowledge and understanding, was Thoth. And later groups like the Therapeutai, were trying to preserve his knowledge and use it to heal people, and so they were known as great healers. By tradition, Imhotep was Hermes, who was Thoth, falling right in line with everything that those tablets say about him.
Right.
So
what I found through my research as well is that, this character Thoth seems to show up everywhere as different people, different names.
yeah,
And for example, down into Mexico in the Mayan region, Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan,
yep,
maybe even Lord Pakal or a relative of Lord Pakal, Viracocha.
yep,
Of course, throughout Europe, Mercury, Odin, with various different names. And then, of course, like I said, Australia, Thothamabi, Africa, Jehuti,
yep.
Tahuti, and also Thoth, all being...
Tuat by the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians referred to him as Tuat.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tuat, that's right. And when I was down in Bora Bora, which is actually where I got married a year ago, they also had a depiction of Thoth and used that very similar name, and said that this island was attributed to him. And if you draw a line straight through the earth from Bora Bora, you pop out right at Cairo in Egypt, which is bizarre.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. So we see this connection, this global connection. We even see, believe it or not, an interplanetary connection. So we have some space anomaly hunters in a group that we have called the United Family of Anomaly Hunters. And what we do is we probe through space probe data from rovers that have gone to the moon and Mars, and even space probes that have gone beyond Huygens probe, so forth. So that landed on Titan, right? But we've analyzed a lot of the images from these space agencies. And one of the most incredible images I ever saw was one anomaly discovered by Martine Graney on Mars, and it looks like Mercury's cap with the wings on it.
Oh, wow.
Clear as day, and it's just laying on the Martian desert floor. And what in the world would that be doing there? An exact replica, well, not say exact, a similar image of an anomaly to something we would find on Earth relating to Mercury.
Yeah.
This connection just seems to be potentially out of this world.
I think it was. Well, and if you look at the Egyptian texts, I mean, Thoth was known for example, when Horus got in a battle with Set, and Horus had a blue eye and a red eye, and the red eye got destroyed, but Thoth was the one who was able to restore his sight through a concoction with his spit. But in the Egyptian mythology, eyes were associated not only with different perspectives, but also sometimes they were associated with planets. So the blue eye and the red eye could literally be Earth and Mars. Yeah. And with the idea that some sort of destruction happened on Mars associated with Set, and of course, but Thoth was the restorer. He was the keeper of the word. He was the one who could restore civilization.
So we see this in the Emerald Tablets, where Kemet seems to have suffered a great flood, and he's told to get into the great ship of the master. Yeah. And he lifts off, because we know this, because he doesn't sail out, he goes up into the sky. And then he sees the temples beneath him, and he descends down in an area where it had been decimated, and he began the rebuilding process with the people there in ancient Kemet.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and we even find allusions to it, or at least his influence in the Old Testament with Moses, because what he was really doing up on the mountain was alchemical procedures. That's the reason why he came down with soot on his face. And of course, when he came down, he saw everyone worshiping a golden calf, which was really just a symbol for the age of Taurus. And he burned the golden calf into a powder to feed them, which really is an alchemical process, right? That's how you convert gold into monoatomic gold, right? So, this was all part of that process associated with Hermes. But even when he was said to be able to turn his staff into a serpent and then back into a staff again, well, this is really the symbol of the caduceus, right? Which was the symbol of Hermes or Thoth. And we find that symbol, if you go to almost all the temples of Egypt, you see it flanked on the doors of the temples. You'll see a big staff with a serpent going down it. And that related to the wisdom of Thoth. And so the fact that Moses was even using this as a symbol suggests that he was learning the wisdom of Thoth.